Final game for us, Marco and myself, is the Thursday night matchup at 7:15 p.m. Eastern Time. Miami taking on Marquette in Washington, D.C. Miami a 5.5-point favorite. The total 127. And Marco, Miami was able to control that pace on Sunday. They limited the game to 55 possessions. And what I got off of one read that I happened to look at when I was looking at the recap for this contest is that the Hurricanes are now 10-0 this season in games with 60 or fewer possessions. Illinois was unable to get going in the second half as far as their transition. They had a grand total of 2 transition points in the second half. That's what cost the Fighting Illini. Miami was able to play their tempo, and if that happens here again, it's going to be tough for Marquette.
Well, if you talk to the Fighting Illini, they might talk about the referees that blew the last call.
Was horrible.
Okay, they might say that cost them a little bit too. But speaking of lucky, Miami, why isn't anybody saying Miami's lucky? Everybody's talking about Marquette. If I hear one more person say Marquette is the luckiest team in the Sweet 16 because they should have been beaten twice, well, you know what? When you play bad and you find a way to win, at some point, like you said, you got to start giving teams credit that they find a way to win when they didn't play their best basketball. So what happens when they do play their best basketball? And Marquette on Saturday, they trailed almost that entire game against Butler. They tied it late and got the final score. But if Butler is not draining it from three the way they were 11 of 24 in the game from three-point land. Butler's not in that game.
Right.
And I don't think Butler is as good as they've been in the past few years.
Yeah.
And I look at Miami. Miami had that scare against Illinois. I think Miami was kind of ripe for a little bit of a flat spot. I know we're in the tournament, and you got to say, how can you have a flat spot? But here's a team that just ripped through the ACC tournament. First time they ever won the ACC tournament. I thought they might have that flat spot the opening game against Pacific, and they just absolutely steamrolled Pacific in that game. So now they're definitely fat and sassy, coming off of the ACC and that blowout win over Pacific. An incoming Illinois team that the one way that you can beat Miami, I think, if they've got any problem in their scheme, their team, is their defense against the three-point shot. In Illinois, whether they make them or not, they're going to be shooting threes. I mean, they put up a ton of threes. And so that's why I was on Illinois on Sunday. I thought it was a matchup problem, and Miami was able to go through. Illinois was just 7 of 27, 26% in the game on the three-pointers after having a big day, shooting against Colorado in the first round.
Erratic as heck against Colorado in the first round. But both of those teams, by the way. In fact, we were doing the first preview radio show after that game that night, and I was saying, I know Gross wants to have, the coach of Illinois wants to have live by the three, die by the three type of mentality. But when you got a guy like Brandon Paul who can do it, who can dribble penetrate, when you're missing all your shots, they went 8 or 9 minutes without making a shot against Colorado. Why not call a timeout before you lose a 16-point lead and fall 5 points behind, and then tell a guy like Brandon Paul, who's topped 40 points in his collegiate career in a game, and say, you know what, we need you to start driving, penetrating, creating, getting higher percentage shots or dish it off to get a better look until we start getting back on track. What does a long-distance shooter do? When he's off, he starts driving the ball a little bit if he's a guard and trying to get better shots closer to the basket. Paul took it upon himself to do that against Colorado, and they came back and won that game. So here we go now. We're talking about this contest. You got a Miami situation where Shane Larkin, he assisted Marco on 49% of Miami's points on Sunday. Larkin was responsible for 19 of Miami's 29 first-half points. He scored 8. He assisted on 11 points. And in Miami's second-round win against Pacific, he scored or assisted on 45% of their points. So the game within the game, let's see how Junior Cadogan does when he's matched up with Shane Larkin. If he's able to shut him down, deny him a little bit, they got a shot to beat this Miami team. This is your free pick.
Well, it's my free pick, and Scott, you just set me up for where I'm going with this game. I'm not going with a side. I'm going with the total. We talked about it in an earlier video. When you have the first round, the first day of that week's games, the Thursday and Friday games, I feel the coaches are the ones that are going to dictate the game. They have more time to prepare. Well, if I'm drawing up the chalkboard, I'm taking Larkin out of the game the best I can, Sure. So I look for this game to be a lower scoring game. I like this game. Miami, they want to play the game in the upper 50s, low 60s because they have such good success with that, and they can play their defense, get you in that half-court game, frustrate you. They rebound the ball well. I'm going to look for a low-scoring game. First game, as I said, defense will prevail. They're not fatigued. Remember, too, when you play that second day on the Saturday or Sunday, if you had a tough game, if it was an up-tempo game and whatever, these kids, I know they're 18 to 22-year-old kids, but still, it's 2 games in 3 days. It's a little bit of fatigue, and plus you don't have that extra time to prepare. We're going to go under the number here. I look for Marquette to play the Big East style of basketball, and I'll use one of Scott's lines. I hope the referees swallow the whistles and don't call too many fouls. And if that happens, we get the low-scoring game.
Which they didn't do when you talked about with Wichita State and Pittsburgh, which barely went over the total despite something like 65 free throws combined as they blew the whistles like crazy. Hopefully they'll make up for it here and swallow those whistles at least partially in this game so we don't see a crazy amount of free throws taken in the contest. Anyway, your free play is the under. And don't forget the other group, Steve Fezzik, Vegas Runner, Brian Leonard. Those guys are going to be a part of the mix. Their videos will start appearing on the pregame homepage on Tuesday early evening. Check those out. And then for the weekend, we got more videos that are going to be up by Friday early evening to take care of Saturday and Sunday's Elite Eight action. And by the way, I almost forgot, First Preview Radio, if you've been checking it out on the homepage, we're up every night at 11 p.m. Live Pacific time, 2 o'clock Eastern. Well, that show on April 1st is moving to 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern time. It'll be up within a half hour after the show ends on the pregame.com homepage. You can also listen live at wearelv.com. That starts Monday, April 1st. We're looking forward to that. Great things coming with First Preview Radio. And thanks to the guys who posted about the First Preview drinking game. We appreciate it. It's been a blast. And we'll see you next week. Again, the new group starts Tuesday night. Check out those videos. We'll talk to you again later this week.